All right, we are live. Hi, and welcome to BDQ Cast. I am CoDameron, and I'm here with my co-host Kiramode.
How's it going, everyone?
All right, so today we are um, casting the top 32 um, game from the Denver Vault Tour that happened this weekend. Kiramode attended. A lot of great people attended. We had some really great games. We're going to be doing the top 32, 16, 8, 4, and finals. And you might see Kiramode in some of these games. So stick around for all these casts. Anyone who's in the chat, come say hi, and I'll have the chat open so we can actually talk about if we say something that you agree with or disagree with, we can talk about it. So this is the top 32. We have Neil versus Dan, and let's look at their decks real quick. Let's do a little bit of a pregame. So I don't know these decks. What do you see here in this Baba Lunaroom deck? This is Neil.
So this one on the left, right?
Yes.
Let's see here. Not super impressed with it. It looks like a bad racing deck at first glance. Well, let me see if I'm missing something.
Okay. I do see I see a lot of Amber Control. I'm happy with the Principle, the Bait and Switch, and I like the Relentless Whispers. I like Wormholes, Master Plans, playing a lot of different cards, Nepenthe Seed, but no library access.
Yeah, I guess what I look at when I see this deck, a lot of small creatures.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't feel like this deck can build a board. But then at the same time, I don't immediately see a lot of Amber generation. Particularly the Untamed side has a lot less Amber generation than you would expect from a racing deck.
Yeah.
The Shadows side, a lot of creatures that I don't know if they do anything. The Logo side, definitely. So like I actually don't 100% know what this deck does.
Yeah.
I'll tell you mine, with the format, it's weird. Like this could be the person's third deck, and they went first to worst type of situation.
Right. So just to recap, this was survival. You bring 3 decks and you play them as you lose with them, right? So if you lose with the deck, you can't play it anymore. We don't know if this was their first, second, third deck. This might not have been their best deck. This might just be another one that they had in their list. That's actually a good point.
Yeah, and also I look at the Untamed side. You got 2 Witch of the Eyes, but you don't have a Speed Sigil, so you can't immediately activate them, and you don't have any good targets really to pick up. Like unless that Mimicry is hitting really hard. I mean, maybe
I
you
don't
get
mind
it for
fertility. I don't mind that, but what I see here is I see a lot of good cards. This just seems like a good stuff deck, right? I see 2 Moon Cursors and 2 Dodgers, and a Nexus and a Remote Access. Those are all tools. I see Dexters for key control, Principal, Bait and Switch, Murmook is in here. I see a Shark for removal. I see a Twin Bolt for removal, the Whispers, the Save the Pack. I see a Mimicry, but I don't see any huge combo. I see a lot of like a very mid-range good stuffs deck here, right? Maybe we'll miss
also,
something.
there's not a lot of board control. As far as killing stuff, right? I don't see any big board wipes. The kill spells are generally smaller kill spells. So you got like the 2 Whispers, maybe a Moon Cursor lives. You got the Shark is probably your best removal.
Yeah, I want to look at the matchup. I want to look at the other.
Yeah, let's see what the other deck is.
Okay, so Dan has Chimera, Admin, Alchemy. I'm not scrolling up. I had these opened already. I'm not scrolling up because I don't want to see how many power levels they have, because that might tell us who wins.
Let's see here.
This is a very different deck. So
yeah,
that was Logo Shadows Untamed, very small bodies. This is Brobnar Sanctum, big bodies.
Yeah, this one has a much better chance of building a board. The concern with this one is very little key denial. So, like, you got the Brobnar side has an Obelisk, that's good. You got an Unguarded Camp, which I think will hit a significant amount of time. You got a Sequus. But then also you look at the Sanctum side, only has 3 creatures. So you're not going to have a situation where
it's got
you
a
can
Remiel.
just Sequus every turn.
This Remiel will almost guaranteed get value because you'll have a Brobnar guy stick around.
Yeah.
But honestly, I'm just looking at this Untamed side, and I'm in love with this Untamed side. You have Mimicry, you have Nature's Call, double Dust Pixie, you have Seed, you have Regrowth, you have Grasping, Full Moon. So the best play here is you Full Moon, play your Dust Pixies, maybe you regrow one, and then you key charge. You Nepenthe Seed for a second key charge. This Untamed side, look, it's got these 2 nice main house, support house in Brobnar Sanctum, then you burst house Untamed, and you could just win the game out of nowhere if you high roll.
Yeah, so I was definitely not feeling the first deck. I like it a little bit more now that I see this deck, though.
Really?
Well, there's just not a lot of creatures in this one either.
I think that Baba Lunaroom, I think this first deck is going to have a lot of trouble killing all of these things. I think this is going to get a lot better value out of their board.
But I mean, I actually think it's going to be pretty close. I actually would put my money on the first one now.
This is not an even matchup. This is a very lopsided matchup. I don't know which way though, but they're two different decks is kind of what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess like when I'm not impressed with the deck on either side, I just look at whoever has more key denial.
Okay.
And that's the first deck.
Okay.
So I think I'd like the second deck more if it either had like an extra Brobnar creature or two or an extra Sanctum creature or two. Because my big concern with the Sanctum lineup in particular is only having 3 creatures means you're going to have a lot of situations where it's like, I got the Remiel, but I don't have anybody else. So I'm never going to call Sanctum because I don't have anyone to do tricks with. I like the Untamed side a lot. So like that's really where that deck is good because you have a very clear burst house. And then as for the Brobnar is a main house. You have 5.5 creatures there. Mm-hmm. If you had 6.5 or 7.5, now we're really talking, you know.
I really want to like this Sanctum list more. I think your comment of having not enough creatures is correct, but like I want to like the Whispering Reliquary. I want this Sigil to be a little better. Like I want to almost count this as a creature to feel better about it, but it's not. So
and so like let's tap back to the other deck. So the other decks, like soft creatures, don't seem as soft anymore when your opponent doesn't have creatures of their own that are bigger. So I'm looking at their list, and you look at the Shadows lineup, and they got 5 weenie creatures. The Untamed lineup has 6 weenies. And then the logo side has 5 weenies. Again, they're all small, so you would normally expect them to get killed, but given that the opponent doesn't have as many, they might actually live.
They are 3s, and nothing in Untamed is going to kill them. Like this Kindred Longshot, is this good? Is this a good card in the matchup? Is this like how the Untamed player gets back in the game? I don't know.
No, because you're never reaping with it, right?
Mighty
you only
Javelin?
have that and 2 Death
Pixies. This Brobnar has to do a lot of work with the War Song to loot the bodies. I want to see a big Brobnar.
The Heb is really where it comes in. So if that Heb the Huge is hitting for big value, that swings the matchup.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the only way that you can get rid of the pesky dudes on the other side is if you're calling Brobnar and attacking. And so that means you have to draw the Brobnar early. And so not like that Moon Cursor, which we're like, there's no protection, it's just going to die. Maybe it doesn't die. Like maybe the Moon Cursors actually stick around.
That's where I was going. I think these Moon Cursors, especially, I don't think Dexter ever dies in the matchup, but I think the Witch of the Eyes might live. No one's going to kill Dexter in this game.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to watch the game. All right.
Okay.
So are we all set to go? Yeah, we're rolling, right? Cool.
Yeah, we're good.
All right. They're flipping a coin. I don't know. I think I'm already past the point where they're looking at each other's decks in this.
Yeah. We just want to see the game.
Okay. Well, I don't want to skip too far ahead. You see, I skipped too far ahead. This is fine.
Yeah, we'll see who goes first. But yeah, like I don't think it's a
look at those.
Advantage,
wait,
I do give Dan. Wait, it says they're both Dan.
Oh. Okay.
That's fine. The deck on the left, like the first deck that we saw, that's the one I give slight advantage to.
Okay, yeah, these are the right decks, for sure. Oh no, I see Shadow's logo Sanctum. This might just be the wrong deck. Oh no. Okay, hold on.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
We can mulligan the stream.
No. It's fine. We're just gonna keep rolling because that was still Baba Lunaroom was in the first game, I think. I do have this one. It's gonna be this deck. Okay, so it is the deck with the 3 Sanctum creatures versus this one. I see. Let's talk about this real quick. Let's do it more quickly.
Okay, so on the left we have the 3 Sanctum creature deck.
Yes.
This one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And here I'm a lot happier with this. Hey, look, it's the Sanctum list. I found all the creatures.
Okay, and this is the one on the right.
This is going to be the one on the right.
Okay. That deck. Okay, let's go back to it. That deck looks much stronger.
I love this Shadows list. Wow. It's got a Sigil. It's got 3 Nerve Blasts. It's got a ton of key denial. Everything in here is value. Wow.
Also, just look at that Sanctum list. So that Sanctum list, you can actually call it for value. Mm-hmm. And then you have Champion Tabris. So she's taking 1 every turn.
Bulwarks.
Now, the rest of them, not as much, right? The rest of them are kind of like either come into play effects or, passive abilities, but they're good abilities.
No, I'm a big fan of this deck.
I think Two Mothers with the Bulwarks is great. And they also have an Anaphile for protection.
This Logos is here for sloppy lab work and lab work. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a hand that you're just going to play out your Logos turn. You're not going to do a ton, but you're going to filter cards. You're going to get Mother. You're going to get lab works. You'll play Wormhole. I don't think there's a ton of terrible Wormhole targets in here.
Well, with this one, I can clearly see a route to victory with this deck, which is you play your Mothers, you protect them with your Sanctum board, you get big card advantage, you have some good key to now, you have some good removal, and then you just wait until you have a massive Sanctum board, and then just start Master Reaping and win.
Yep. And there's even a Virtuous works. Okay. And
then you also have Wormholes, which are probably hitting for creatures, which further bolster your boards.
I think this is my pick for this matchup now.
Yeah.
This deck looks cool. It has it can go off with the Untamed list. It can go off with the Brobnar list, but this seems much more consistent. There's Amber all over the place in these cards. There's a speed
on the
sigil.
Other deck, the Brobnar list looks much weaker now because you're actually up against a deck that has big enough creatures in that Sanctum lineup to contest with it. Like, you can't just run your Brobnar guys and kill whatever you want.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I want to see if this Bureaucrat lives. I think it will. Okay. Now that we know which decks we're playing, they might both be Dan. I've got to change things on the settings, but it's fine. We'll do it later. Hey, look, I've already got it loaded. Okay. Turn 1 Iron Obelisk is great.
Yeah. Fun card.
Oh, good. Wow.
Mother.
All right. Is this game over? 2 Mothers on turn 1. How is Dan on the left going to kill these?
He doesn't have a lot of ways to do so. Because he has a Nature's Call, so he can bounce them, but that's really about it. And wait, did he Wormhole into that Bulwark, or did he Phase Shift into it?
He Phase Shift into it. And
it looks like he took back a little bit, like he allowed him to rearrange his board.
And that's a thing that I wouldn't allow at a top 32 of a Vault Tour. But it's a casual game. They just started off. There might be, I don't know. Nice of Dan, but this is like the pro level. And putting that Bulwark in the middle is a big deal. Being able to protect both your Mothers equally.
Yeah, so I guess the move here is you have to have some sort of churn to get rid of that Bulwark. Because I was about to say it's not over until the Bulwark hits or the Champion Anaphile hits, and it just hits turn 1. Mm-hmm. So he Nocturnal Maneuvered, which doesn't really do anything.
There is a Nature's Call.
These cards... No, that he just played a maneuver to tap him.
He's holding a Nature's Call and a seat. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Dan is actually going to play a great turn here also. Yeah. No. The Dust...
So he bounces Dust Pixie, bounces the Mothers.
I would bounce the Dust Pixie and the Mothers, yeah. Because Dan doesn't want to play Logos again. He just played a big Logos turn. Wow.
Yeah. And so now he's sitting on 10 cards in hand. So he's going to have a big turn no matter what. But...
Can I make a note of something?
Here... Yeah.
Dan got himself to 6 Amber with 2 Dust Pixies, a Nature's Call, and a Nocturnal Maneuver. He held the Regrowth. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I would just play it. Mm-hmm. Like, just get up to 7. Because, yeah, like, he just played Neurosiphon and it took you off. And he also has, like, Nerve Blast and stuff. Mm-hmm. Regrowthing for a Dust Pixie, I don't know if that's valuable enough.
Yep. I think I play the Regrowth because I don't want to play my Untamed turn again. Because that was an incredible turn 1 hand out of Dan. Mm-hmm. Okay, Dan versus Steven. Oh, look who's in Steven. Look in the little player camera of Steven. I know that guy. Anyway, no, Steven is actually cracking back with a really great turn. He found Neurosiphon and Sloppy, which means that his Logos turn is not terrible, and he gets his Mothers back down in the same organization. These two players are both... I think these are pretty high rolls right now. These are really strong turns out of both of them.
Yeah, a double Mother turn 1 is disgusting. And if I'm Dan, I'm just cursing at the heavens for seeing that. Because, the only way that Dan can deal with that is his Brobnar list, or at least be able to consistently deal with it. But I like that turn. That turn's good.
Okay, so that's a good point from Luke. The seed is vulnerable. Hold on, I just want to check this real quick. How much Amber control? How much artifact control is in here? Do you see any?
I don't see any. It doesn't look vulnerable to me. Unless I missed something.
Okay, it might not be. It was vulnerable against the first deck, but I still am really happy with the play of going Untamed again and then getting this big turn. I kind of like this. What he could have done, he reaped with the Dew Fairy. He could have even fought with it to get value out of that regrowth in his hand. But he found the key charge.
And he has a key charge there.
He's also holding Full Moon.
I feel like he played that turn. You said he held a regrowth, right?
What he did is he reaped with Dew Fairy and then seeded for the Nature's Call, which I think is correct. But I think you fight with the Dew Fairy instead to get value out of the regrowth.
If he has a regrowth, yeah, you fight first, regrowth, play for Amber, then you Nature's Call, bring it, play for Amber again.
Yeah, sorry, Luke. There was a little bit of confusion with the decks, but that we get to talk about decks, and I think it's a cool thing that we now get to see how much better this matchup is for Steven. And Dan's deck is actually doing the thing I was hoping it would do. The Untamed, he's played it 3 times now, 2 times, and he's got a key and a half, a key and a 2 Amber. He's putting it on his key.
Okay, so Steven here is deciding to keep punching logos forward. I don't mind it. Like, I think you're not as far behind it. Like, he's down a key, but he's way ahead on the board. And if those mothers stick for even one more turn, now this thing just starts spiraling out of control because he's going to draw more cards. He's going to get all this key denial. And so Dan's at
Steven out of 8 card hand only played a Wild Wormhole, and then he reaped for 2 and then played Spectral Tunneler. I think that there's got to be...
He replayed his mothers. That's what he did. Because they got bounced.
Oh, right. They got bounced again. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm fine with that. Okay. So there goes the Bulwark. No, it only takes 6. It only takes 5 of 6. Because of
kinda
the
rough.
gang. Like, that chieftain needed... That chieftain was supposed to have a mother leave, but it couldn't do that because of the armor from the Bulwarks. And that's a big thing for Steven. Like, if Dan hadn't let him... Oh, I guess it doesn't matter because of the Nature's Calls, but that's what the organization is about. Both mothers are safe.
All right, so Steven's only called logos this entire game, so he should have a really big turn here. Oh, great. Champ.
Virtuous Works. Okay.
That's kind of a do-nothing card right now. It's not what's going to be relevant in this game. Like, what Steven needs to do is he needs to be able to find his Champion Tabras and his Naughty and keep Dan off of keys. So the Radiant Knight, and then he just bad penny fights.
I love that play. I was about to talk about the Iron Obelisk being a problem, right? I don't think I agree with you, honestly. I think that Steven can win a race here because Dan's deck is going to go off once, and it already just played most of its good Untamed cards.
Untamed stuff, yeah.
And Dan's still holding that regrowth, which I think is strange. But Steven's already seen the Seed, the Nature's Call, the Dust Pixies on the board, one of the two. And, he's going to be going not Untamed anymore. So the Brobnar and Sanctum cards in Dan's list aren't going to be as pushing Amber as hard. So I think Steven can actually build a board and play to that strength. I want to see him jam Sanctum. I want to see him jam Sanctum and not even care about keys anymore.
Yeah, he has 4 to a house for Sanctum. So he's pretty much at the point where he could start Master Reaping almost. I feel like he's 1 card away simply because Dan does have some Brobnar creatures that need to get dealt with. So he's not quite there yet, but he's very close.
Is that a shoulder armor? I think it is. And I mean, Steven is still drawing 8 cards a turn. I don't know how Dan holding a regrowth can go up against that. Maybe the Virtuous Works. He can Mimicry for it. But I don't know if Dan can really race.
That'd be good. Yeah.
War Song. Okay.
Well, he's not. So he's going to fight a little bit here, which is probably the right decision. I think you need to try to thin out this board. At least get the mothers off the table. Could put you on somewhat of a fair fight.
I think that the biggest thing that Dan
can
be
taking
doing...
out 2 Sanctum guys is good.
No, I think what's more important is that he's activating his Obelisk. He's taking 2 Amber away from Steven by making him forge at 8. That's a huge thing. And now the delta's actually even, which is kind of cool. Good play by Dan. Yeah, now Steven has to forge at 8. That's with the War Song, that's a great turn. I think Dan's at like 4, I think. That's a great turn.
Yeah, I thought he'd be at a point where you could put him in check. Is that...
That's a bait for 2.
That's a bait.
Bait for 2.
Okay, that's really strong.
Nerve Blast. Here come all the Nerve Blasts. Yep.
And he's going to play Bad Penny.
2 Nerve Blasts.
Eesh. This is where the removal becomes relevant.
I think
because Dan doesn't have a lot of removal outside of his just Brobnar creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he fights, he put himself at such low health that it became really difficult for him to do anything.
Well, he needed to, because of the Iron Obelisk and the Bulwark. Like, I think fighting.
He needed to kill guys.
I think fighting was absolutely right there. He had War Song. There was no way that was the wrong play, but that you have to expect to die.
Yeah.
And that's why Brobnar as a main house is kind of weird, because they don't heal themselves. They don't protect themselves. It actually took 2 attacks to take down the Bulwark, and that's a big deal.
Now, so the good thing for Dan here, Steven doesn't have the greatest board texture. He has a 2/2/2 board.
Do you see that mimicry
while all
for
of
bait?
his turns are decent, none of them are amazing.
Do you see that mimicry for bait? What a play. Okay.
Pretty good.
Here's the attack from the Dew Fairy into Regrowth for the 6th Amber. So now he's got 6. But, like, that's not...
Yeah, so that Regrowth needed to just get played a couple turns ago.
Yeah.
And because he got the same amount of value.
Yeah.
He didn't get more out of it.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of the Regrowth. Was that even a good enough Untamed turn overall? Did he do enough damage? Like, is putting himself to only 6 enough pressure onto Steven? I don't know.
I don't know. Steven should be able to get him off of a key here.
If he can't, that's a big deal for Dan. Okay. So we're reaping for value with Logos.
Mm-hmm. Gets 1 off Dr. Escotera, so that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he can steal, because he doesn't... Yeah, Dan's going to get key here, I think. Unless he can phase shift into something.
Here's a wormhole. Tabris. I'm happy to have Tabris on the board, but like...
Yeah, that's great.
He has 2 Dexters, right?
I can't tell what that last card is, but...
It's not Dexter, which is what he wanted. Ganymede Archivist. Too bad.
Okay, so Dan has a 2nd key, but now Steven's board looks completely disgusting.
Notice how Dan got both of his keys off of almost entirely Untamed Amber. And this is his first Sanctum turn. He's found 2/3 of his creatures.
Yeah.
I mean,
so I think with his Regrowth play, the only thing that it did that was useful is it made Steven's bait and switch not as powerful. But I don't think that still justifies it. Like, I'd rather just play the Regrowth turn 1 and draw.
Yeah. He could have had 4 or 5 more cards by now. But now we're even on keys. We're actually even on Amber almost. Dan has 1 Amber. I think Dan is going to go Sanctum. Oh, why is she stunned? Maxina stuns Tabris. I like that play. Mm-hmm. Tabris can't kill Maxina,
I think you go Logos and just reap with everything, right? Because you got 4 reaps on the board, and then if you could just play a couple derpy Logos cards, now you're at 6, and Dan has to respond to you.
He makes a good point here. Steven's had both mothers out the entire game. Every single turn he's been drawing to 8, and that's a huge deal. And I'm actually a little surprised Steven's not further ahead, but I mean his board is further ahead.
Yeah, I mean it's an illusion, right? Dan's had a couple really, really powerful Untamed turns, but he hasn't really done anything else. Like he had like 1 Brobnar turn that he played stuff, and
is that Glorious View? No, it's Cleansing Wave. Oh, that's also Glorious View. Oh, that's how Dan wins on Glorious View.
I think you actually would. Well, let me see here. You reap with your guys, and then just Glorious View.
Reap 3 Glorious View? Wow. Yeah.
They're pretty nutty if you went off that.
Fights with the...
Well, and also, so here's a question. When Steve when Steve had that Logos turn and he chose not to get Dan off of a key, he probably could have. Right? He probably had like a Shadows card that can get him off a key.
Yeah. And that's why I was upset at that. I'd be curious
to know. Okay, so I don't like what he did here. He suicided a couple of his guys in order to get a bigger Glorious Few. But if you just reap, it's the same size Glorious Few and you don't lose the guys.
But he actually actioned Lady Maxina to bounce her to hand, and he attacked with the Dust Pixie to get value out of Cleansing Wave. Turns out it's actually great. Also notice the stun. He stuns the Urchin because he's putting Steven onto a Miasma. And if he has to go Shadows, even though he only has one Shadows guy, he has to play the Miasma.
Well, he snaps Shadows there.
Yeah, he has to go Shadows. And here's the
That's
Poison Wave.
That's a Poison Wave, I believe.
It is. I mean, there is a second Miasma in this list, right? I don't believe I'm wrong about that. There's 2 Miasma, 1 bait, 3 Nerf Blast. I think
so, yeah. He had like 2 Miasmas and a bait.
And he's only at 4 Amber, so...
But Steven called Shadows pretty quickly, so he's got to be able to stop him.
Mm-hmm. And he's doing things, so... I don't know. And he's been drawing so many cards. Look at how thin his deck is.
He also has like the monstrous hand.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a Nerve Blast. Gets him another one.
He's at 6 now. Miasma. No, Penny. That's more Shadows, guys. There's Miasma. Okay. So...
I still can't tell how much Amber Dan has at any given time.
It's on his red key. It's little dots. There's 9, I think. Oh. Yeah.
So it might be Miasma or Bust here.
No, he Miasma'd.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's like after that, I don't think Steven has another turn, does he?
Steven has played his other Miasma, but I think he's actually shuffling because he's drawn 8. He's drawing to 8.
Oh.
Hey, Ryan.
It'd be pretty sad if Dan was able to stop him for a turn and then he rips a Miasma or a bait off the top or something. Oh, no, that's it.
Oh, no. Dan concedes because he can't get him off of 7. Dan concedes.
Well, that was actually much closer than I thought it was going to be.
Okay, let's...
The Glorious Few really turned the tide of what I thought that match could be.
So let's talk about these lists. There's 2 things that stand out to me really big here. First thing that you said is that you were looking against this deck because it doesn't have the key control, right? Mm-hmm. And the Unguarded Camp didn't come into play. The Iron Obelisk and the Bumpsies actually did a ton of work. But other than that, there's no Miasma. Let's look at the key control that was played. We had both Bumpsies. We had the Obelisk for at least 2. We had Mimicry for Bait and Switch. And nothing out of Sanctum. And really, Dan was making as many plays as he can with his tools. But it turns out he didn't have the key control to stop it when it mattered. Conversely, Steven had a ton of key control. He had the baits. One of the Miasmas didn't fire, but both Nerve Blasts did. The Urchins came down. The Neurosiphon was huge. Remember the Neurosiphon?
Yeah, it kept him off of a key. And what else did he have? He didn't find his Tabris or his Naughty quick enough for them to be super relevant, and he also played an Urchin for no value.
Mm-hmm.
But the key control is there, and he can buy himself a turn a lot easier than Dan can. And that really was just a difference. I mean, so one of the other things too is what I mentioned is when he let Dan build that key when he didn't have to, he might have not needed the Miasma if he just keeps him at 5, because then he plays a Glorious Few. He ends up at a Mountain of Amber, but he still has 2 turns to work with.
Right. That seemed like a choice that was a little strange, but it worked out. But I do want to talk about the 2 mothers. Was there any way? Was there any window to get these mothers off of the table? I really don't think there was. The only thing was like the Maxina at the end possibly attacking, but they were always under a bulwark.
The only way that you could have gotten them off realistically is if on one of the Nature's Call you also bounce the Bulwark, so that way the turn where you play your Brobnar turn, instead of swinging Bumpsy into a Bulwark to do nothing, you swing into a Mother to kill one of them.
And that also makes his hand a little bit less good. And the trade-off is that your Dust Pixie doesn't hit as hard, and that might be the trade-off that you need, knowing the tools that you have in this deck. Mm-hmm. Huh. But
it's a close one though. I don't know. Also, like, I mean, if you kill that mother that early, does that turn the tide?
okay,
Do
so
you still get the big glorious few? Who knows?
I think that this was a matchup of high rolls. I think both decks exploded out of the gate. Double Mother Bulwark was double Mother phase shift for Bulwark, incredible, versus a turn one crazy Untamed play, and
followed by another Untamed play to still abuse a Dust Pixie.
Yeah, I think like that's the best hand that Dan could have asked for on Untamed, but I don't know if like the high roll still wasn't enough because the key control wasn't there. Yeah.
So now, by the way, so when you say is there something that Dan could have done differently, I think what he could have done differently is the regrowth, right? There was two opportunities where he could have played it. The first one was turn one to just get an Amber, right? And draw an extra card.
Yep.
And if he would have done that, he would have forged a key. Because if you remember, like right after he had that big 6 Amber play, his opponent just plays an Arrow Siphon.
Yep.
So if you're at 7, you can't do that.
Yep.
And then because then also what happens is after that play, he plays Shadows and takes more Amber.
Yep.
Right. But I think he might have already had a key at that point, though.
But then turn two, he actually missed an efficiency play, I think.
Yeah. He could have suicided the Dust Pixie first, regrowth it, then play the Nature's Call, play it again. So there were plays that were available to him. Ultimately, though, when it really came down to is maybe that Glorious Few just needed to hit a turn earlier. That's all.
I think that this deck just doesn't have the juice to really get there, and like the board control was better for Steven, and it was lucky that he found the Glorious Few is like, I know that you like Glorious Few a lot more than I do. I think it's like a token, like, oh, I guess I'm losing, I guess I'll play this card. I would much rather have the board control, and I don't know. The Nature's Calls were big though.
Yeah, the Glorious Few just can accelerate your game plan. So I like it in racing decks because if you have a whole bunch of cards that give you Amber and don't really do a whole lot else, it makes it so you don't get punished as hard long term, because if they're building a board, you then just Glorious Few and get all that value back.
Right. Okay, so good game with Dan and Steven. This was the top 32. What we're going to do is we're going to do the rest of the games following this. I'm going to end this stream, and then it's going to save separately. And we're going to start up in like a minute or so. So stick around. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.